Hello and welcome to Movie of the Year, the only podcast on the internet that has the science and the screening to determine what is the single greatest movie of any given year. My name is Ryan, and I will be your host tonight on this journey to figure out what is finally the greatest movie of 2020. We have been doing this season for a year and a half now, and also at the same time, everybody's already done talking about 2020. So this is weird for me. It feels like that it makes us the most important conversationalists as far as the year 2020 goes, because we took the actual time to figure it out. Tonight, and for one night only, it is the film Promising Young Woman. With me to try to figure this out is Greg.
Hello, I'm Greg. I am here to figure out Promising Young Woman.
Greg, do you think this is something that you're capable of doing?
I think that it's a good movie for this show because there is a lot to figure out. There's a lot to think about. There's a lot to unpack.
I do think that this is going to be one of those episodes where I'm like, well, I think this, and then over the course of talking to you guys, oh, do I? Who knows?
It is certainly one of those movies that when you are done watching it, you've probably been provoked in a number of ways, and you have just started a journey of like thinking about it and trying to figure out, why certain decisions were made. And I think that process is worthwhile and interesting.
Speaking of 2020, the host of the Mank episode of the 2020 season is here. It is Kate.
Hello. Hi, guys. I'm here.
Woo.
I'm back.
Are you ready for this shit?
I'm sorry. Did you order a promising young woman?
Oh!
I didn't know
A Promising Young Woman
obvious.
and the Manx.
Oh, that'd be a cool band, man.
Yeah, I like band names where it's not a person's name and then the nicknames. But let's do nickname and then the nicknames.
Nicking the names would be a great band name.
I'm very, very much excited about being on this episode. I think this is a very, very cool movie, and I'm really excited to help kind of point out landmines that are invisible to you guys.
No way, Kate.
That's not why you're here. You're here because we love podcasting with you.
Yeah, just a gentle nudge left and right, get you through.
Greg and Kate, do you think that the three of us are ready to do this? Do you think that we're capable?
Yeah, I do. I think you guys are incredibly evolved, straight cis white men in your late 30s.
And by the three of us, I mean Ryan, Greg, and Kate.
Yeah.
The three of us definitely have what it takes.
All right.
Is this pointed exclusion?
I have a
welcome
surprise
to
for
my
you
world,
guys.
buddy.
Is this what it feels like to be a promising young woman?
Mike, who
What?
will clearly get last place in this podcast that is a game show talking about movies. Mike is here as well to talk about Promising Young Woman.
Why clearly? Just because I'm brave enough to say, I don't know if this movie was for nice guys.
Well, clearly,
Nice guys finish last, even with their quarterback.
That should have gone over
Yeah.
the credits.
That would have been a good movie music moment.
so it's my job right now in the intro to ask you guys a question that is typically sort of a gimme. We almost always do these classic movies that are beloved. But we're doing 2020, and we're doing Promising Young Woman, so I really do not know the answer to this intro question. Greg, we're going to start with you. We're going to go in the order of people introduced. This was such a polarizing movie, and we're going to get into the nitty, both the nitty and the gritty of the movie throughout the show. But for right now, like opinions, it was so polarizing. What did you think of the movie?
I loved it. Parts of it sort of broke my heart. And I think the first time I watched it, not everything shook out the way I was hoping it would. What it reminded me of, Ryan, was she reminds me of Spike Lee a little bit. Like, you will come away feeling stuff from this movie, and I think ultimately you'll be like, oh, I see why she made all those choices, and they were the right choices. But for a while there, I think I was a little ruffled by the ending of it, and a little ruffled by how some of the characters turned out. But upon reflection, I was like, this was a good movie. This was very interesting.
So by Spike Lee, Pop Filter Hall of Famer, what you're saying is that like if you gave this movie 2.5 stars out of 4, I guess that's cool. But this movie is for the people who gave it 4 stars or 1.5 stars.
Yeah.
Why don't you guys converse?
And she also draws from, I mean, we'll talk about her in a little bit, but she draws from like the whole toolbox. Mm-hmm. Like just because you're making one type of movie doesn't mean you have to only have to do it one type of way. And yeah, it's provoking. I think it's a provoking movie on purpose, and I think it's like it's a good topic to be a little provoked about.
Which, I mean, just that sentence right there, like you were purposefully provoking, is like kind of a, that's a talking point right there. Kate, movie in general. Before we get into it, what did you think?
I really, really liked this movie. I watched this movie a total of 3 times before we ended up watching this, or talking about this. But that's partially because I couldn't get through it the first time. I didn't know what the content was going in, and so I kind of locked into a viewing of it like on a casual Wednesday evening or something, and I had to turn it off within 4 minutes. And so then I watched it fully and kind of had a very cathartic cry afterwards with a couple of friends of mine, and then watched it again, and I loved it every single time. It's just, it is revenge movies are very, very complicated, and there is a lot of pleasure and a lot of pain inherent to it. So I really like the movie, and I also think that it's it like a lot of things, there's the Trojan horse of like pastel color palettes and hair bows and all that stuff, like there is in a woman's life, that's kind of masking a lot of very, very heavy content. So I really liked how she navigated it. I think it was provocative. I think that it was intentionally so. I don't think it was sloppy.
Yes.
So I was into it.
I definitely think that like we're going to get into the word choices a lot. Like everyone involved is making choices, and I want us to talk about what those and why those were made. Mike, I hesitate to ask you this, dude, because I just know how you are, but what'd you think of the movie?
I think my esteemed competitors made very good points. I didn't think about the Spike Lee comparison, but yeah, he makes entertaining polemics. And I think this is definitely one of those where, and for what Kate said, very intentionally doing things to bother us, but sugarcoating it and being like, but we're going to make it in a fun movie. There's fun songs. There's nice things to look at. And it's going to be fucking funny the whole time your gut is getting ripped out of your body. And all of that is, if this was normal Oscar bait of like, we're going to talk about sexual assault very seriously. I think what she's doing is so cool is like, you can talk about important issues and make a fun fucking movie at the same time. And it can send you all over the place, and that it doesn't need to be mutually exclusive.
But the thing that's crazy to me about this movie, and I thought it was good-ish. Like, I have my issues with the movie, but I think there's so much it does well, and I'm so glad I watched it. But I think that what the movie does is it's not subtly saying we should talk about important issues, but it's saying how do we talk about important issues? Like everything is confusing. Everything needs more nuance. And so every time you go, like, all she wants you to do is start the conversation, whether it's ham-fisted or whether it's subtle and natural. She sort of like attacks the conversation every sort of way. All right, let's do this, guys. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about Promising Young Woman. Hey, guys, thank you so much for listening so far, and let me just tell you that everything ahead of this commercial is much better than what came before it. That's my guarantee. While I have you here, let me tell you about a website. It's called yourpopfilter.com, and it's everything you need that's related to Pop Filter. Everything Mike, everything Ryan, everything Greg, everything Cassie, everything is there at yourpopfilter.com. While you're there, go to yourpopfilter.com/Amazon. Make that your new Amazon bookmark and do your shopping from there. That way, we get a little piece of the action and Amazon doesn't. Make sure you're also listening to everything that Pop Filter has to offer, which includes the Superhero Show, a podcast that covers every single TV show that's based on a comic book or comic book property. and Movie of the Year, where we sit down and try and figure out what is the single greatest movie of any given year. That's Superhero Show. That's Movie of the Year. And that's yourpopfilter.com. Rate, subscribe, review. Bye! In 2017, a scene popped into Emerald Fennell's head. A drunk girl is lying in a bed, repeatedly asking her would-be rapist, "What are you doing?" Eventually, the girl surprises the guy by asking the question one last time, totally sober, and then it cuts to the title screen. 2020's Promising Young Woman is the movie built around that scene, which ends the first segment of the movie. Picked up by Margot Robbie, and then cast by Carey Mulligan and a bunch of entertainment's nice guys. Promising Young Woman tells the story of Cassie, a 30-year-old woman who spends her days working at a coffee shop and living with her parents. By night, however, she lives a secret life pretending to be drunk in clubs, getting approached and then taken home by these nice guys, and then surprising them by being sober and doing something. Cassie tries to escape the life she leads when she meets Ryan, played by Bo Burnham, but is once again pulled back into the life. Taste buds, I ask you this. This movie is by women, about women. In what ways do the filmic components of the movie, structure, form, stylization, cinematography, etc., recenter women? How does Emerald Fennell reappropriate the male gaze? And where does she tuck extra bits of quote-unquote girlishness?
Such a good question.
Very complicated.
I don't think it is. I think what that question is really angling towards is talking about the movie in terms of its like formic components, because I do think that there is an important distinction in the conversation around this film between the actual filmmaking and the plot itself. And I think that there's a lot of merit to see what she's doing as a filmmaker outside of this very tense conversation that's, you know, that has that is kind of deserves its own sensitivity and deserves its own conversation. So I think engaging with like what she's doing as a director, what choices she is making as a director, I think kind of lets us into the world, looking at the world through a woman's eyes. Mm-hmm. I think that she does that very well in a lot of different ways.
I also think that a lot of male directors try to appease the eye first, and a lot of times when they say that or when they think that, it's also trying to appease the boner first. You know? Like, I want to make sure that when we're leading into something that is awful, it's very clearly awful, but shouldn't you have like a little bit of a boner?
Yeah, the where we meet Cassie and it's this like very haunting, she's framed right in the middle and there's that giant red leather couch and her arms are like outstretched and she's like half passed out. And we pull back, a male director would go like up the toes and the ankle and this just shows her isolated immediately in this like big cavernous bar. Like we're just kind of worried about the situation instead of there's no attempt at titillation.
But there's also, I think, something that we see throughout the entirety of the film that's, I think, pretty subtle, but I noticed it enough to where I'm pretty sure she was being intentional about it, is there's like a lot of Christ Catholic imagery throughout all of it. And there is, I mean, that first scene, she's like, you know, she looks crucified there. Yeah. She looks like a sacrificial lamb. She looks vulnerable and you see that body language again when she's inside the bed with Sean Cohen or whatever his name is. What is that guy's name?
Adam Brody.
Adam Brody.
AKA Seth Cohen.
Seth Cohen. Jesus Christ.
Cohen.
All right.
And then
wait for Greg and Mike.
It also
every time she's sitting in her bed, right? Her bed has wings for her whenever she's just sitting there thinking. You know, like that gives her a different sort of thing. Sorry, Greg, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that's kind of a separate thing. You know, I think that the Christ imagery also prefigures like her pose when she's like finally dead at the end of the movie. And of course she like, you know, all the music from that point forward is all about like rising from the dead, becoming like an angel. Right. And so then there's that second aspect, which is like she's an avenging angel, right? We see her from the beginning of the movie. What we have is like a person who is not quite alive anymore. And when we think that we're going to see her reclaim that life, it actually becomes the avenue that leads her most directly to just her final destruction. And so what we see kind of is always like an avatar of pure revenge. And that's always the end of these revenge stories, right? Revenge consumes the revenger, because revenge classically belongs to the Lord and not to, to humanity. And so there's no end except for death for the revenger.
Yeah. And
I think a part of it too is that it's not like, this is a vigilante story, which in sort of a way means a superhero story. And this is not following those typical superhero steps. This starts like halfway through the story and then gives us the ultimate end. Not that we're getting to the end, but of how those actual stories would, turn out. And so what we're seeing is just this character going halfway through where we normally start, and then dealing with the repercussions, which I think does throw us off.
I think her status as a vigilante hero is complicated by the fact that she's like this Christ figure. Because in to me, that's an incredibly feminine thing. I think, obviously, Christ is a dude. We know for a fact that Jesus was a man. But there's a lot of what we consider like Christian sacrifice is very associated with very feminine things. There is, so being a sacrificial lamb is kind of a very feminine state to begin with. And so this is a person who literally sacrifices herself on behalf of this other person. You see that even in her behavior, dropping off out of med school to help someone. I have had friends who have had to do similar things like that. There's a certain kind of feminine sacrifice throughout all of this movie that I think is really powerful. And I think that one of the things that we see when we're, if we're talking about it within this context of not just like a Christ figure, but a superhero figure, is something, and I read this somewhere, so it's not a completely independent thought, though I think it's very true, is that one of the things that makes this such a cool revenge fantasy is that it is revenge as a woman would do it. Meaning it is not explicitly violent, it is psychological warfare. And it's kind of thing where it's like, figuring out how to ruin a person's life by knowing just what makes them tick is incredibly powerful. And I think that they did a really good job of combining that vigilante superhero Christ thing all inside of like a fun little blonde.
Because in some boy movies, and we'll get to like the whole revenge fantasy thing in a couple minutes, but because in boy movies, to get revenge, you either punch them or shoot them,
or punch them.
And then in other boy movies, you either you punch a gun right at their head, and then it shoots them right at the last second.
Yeah.
But this one was different. Mike, I want to ask you this:
I'll allow it.
What was it about this movie that did bring this new filmmaker to you? Like, oh God, I this is somebody who I'm going to follow for the rest of her career.
I think it's the like slick visual styling. Like it felt. I don't have all the vocabulary to talk about how it felt different. It felt Hitchcockian at times, but then broke up those tense moments with jokes. Like she balanced tone in a way so few filmmakers can. And even like when Spike Lee does it, it is jarring. And I think it's properly jarring on purpose often, but it's like sharp left turn into a new tone. And she just tricks you, man. She's like, oh, it's sweet. Oh, it's sweet. Punch you in the gut again. Here's another thing. Oh, your guts are getting ripped out. Here's a very funny moment again. And just to be able to like, it feels like a heightened reality, but at the same time, like one of the most realistic movies I've seen in I can't remember how long because of that blend.
So I do want to talk about genre in a second, but tone, this is a good place to talk about it now because I do feel like that's a filmmaker's job, is just tone control. And I think that it was interesting, but not always successful. Am I wrong here, Greg?
I guess, it reminds me. It's hard not to talk about this movie without thinking of "I May Destroy You" because I think there's a lot that's similar to it. But one of the things I think that is the same is whatever tone this movie has, the world has a more fucked up and mixed tone than that. Reality. I think they might say this in I May Destroy You, or it came up in our talking about it, but the truth is, like, a lot of victims don't necessarily fall apart in such a way that they just stop functioning altogether. A lot of people just drag their wounded limbs behind them and just sort of, like, get through life one day at a time, somehow failing forward and never addressing their wound. And that creates tonal shifts where sometimes you're joking around and other times you're just like absolutely so wounded that you're curled in a corner. And so I think it's jarring for a movie, but when I compare it to reality, it just seems like well within the spectrum of the kind of tonal shift you see in a day-to-day life.
And I do wonder if that is, and I don't want to be this person who chimes in every time. Is like, I think it might be gendered, but I do think that there's something to be said about like the emotional complexity of like a woman's narrative of her own life is substantially different than that of a man's. And I think that having a character, I mean, I know that Emerald hired female comedy actors for non-comedic roles because of the comfort it gave those performers while dealing with such a heavy subject. And I think that is a fascinating choice that's like non-diegetic, just in terms of like, this mixed tone is something that is a product of attempting to kind of create comforting spaces for women, which are not like, they're not like the sound and the fury.
Yeah.
You know, they're much more, there's more gradation there. And I think that having comedic actors be completely stoic and having this weird mix of like success and failure in her attempts at retribution, I think the messiness is very important.
And to that, it feels like a dude director would be like, no, we need to sit in this grief and tension for the 3 months we're making this movie. And for Emerald to be like, we should make it as fun and light as possible when we're not filming, because this is enough, because she's realizing how many of the women are just actually going through what Cassie has gone through. And to have that wherewithal and thoughtfulness, a moment that I think shines in the movie is when, after her first finally date with Ryan, and he's just like, oh, do you want to like keep this going? Like it's a fun light date, has been so far. And I don't think he means anything gross. He's just like, you want to come up and have a drink? And she recoils because this is what all the nice guys she hunts do, very predatorily. And I think that has to be so real, of where a dude is just like, I didn't know what, that's such the male privilege where like, I do think women have to at every point run those abacus calculations of like, is this real or am I in danger?
Yeah. But
a couple examples. Oh, sorry, Kate.
No, no. You go ahead. I'll get the next one.
A couple of examples I want to point out is Cassie's parents' house, which is it's extreme, but it's not as extreme as I think that Michael Bay would have done it. You know, if he made this movie,
just explosions. She just lives in an explosion.
She lives in her aunt's house or her great aunt's house. You know, like it's crazy. But the other thing, the biggest one that I hit was once we got to rom-com time and Paris Hilton was playing, they walked into a pharmacy that had the word pharmacy like in big neon lights above. And like it was just such a change of what we were seeing before, you know? Like this is as far as we know, like this is just a normal pharmacy sign, but like the way that Cassie is seeing it right now, it's just big, bright purple pharmacy.
I think that's lovely, because I had not thought about that. That's a ridiculous way of structuring a pharmacy. They don't do like that.
I think
we all know we're inside the pharmacy.
It was it felt to me like it was supposed to be like a music video, even the extras,
an enchanting moment.
Yeah, even the extras are framed in such a way that you are forced to realize it's the same like 2 or 3 people in the pharmacy in every single shot.
And in that scene, that's when like Cassie and Ryan are like sort of like dancing like crazy kids in a rom-com, and all the extras are like, what? They're not supposed to be doing this, but I love it. This is life affirming.
I love, there's 2 employees in the extras. One is just smiling and watching them, and then the other is glaring. Because if you've ever been like drunk in New York and you think you're having fun in the store, the employee is not having
life
fun.
Hell. Yeah.
Oh, I have to clean that later. Cool. Cool.
Thanks for blowing up that bag of chips. I'm glad your girlfriend's gonna kiss you later. I think.
Go ahead, Kate. It's your turn.
I think that going one other flip side of the coin in terms of the interaction between Bo Burnham and Carey Mulligan outside of his apartment, because I think you're right. It is very complex, because I think one of the things it shows obviously is like this, not sincerely, at least, you know, within this moment in the movie, good guy, no ill intent, triggering something in this woman that, you know, like, it wasn't necessarily his job to like know about, and he, you know, whatever. I think that movie or that scene, what it does particularly well, is it shows something that's very real, for women, for survivors, as well as the women close to survivors, because I think one thing that this movie does really well is illustrate just how much it is a ripple effect through the community. It is not one person's trauma. So many people are affected by that throughout that movie. And one thing that I think is very true about any form of abuse in one way or the other that I think is not always understood by those in power / men is how much the trajectory of your life changes. It isn't just a distinct moment of trauma. She is no longer in med school. You know, those things are really powerful. And her friend committing suicide after a horrific act of like public rape. Her going on a date with her intimate relationships are affected. Her ability to be trusting, her ability to feel safe with someone is fucked up. And I think that scene when she's walking away and she kicks over the trash can, I don't think it's anger at him. I think it's anger at the entire emotional situation she's in, where she wants to have a crush on Bo Burnham. She wants to be with this guy. But everything in her is so afraid and so angry, and you can't really square that, you know, between like the candy pop, like romantic comedy with like a cute thing that you want and kind of the harrowing reality that you have. Monologue over.
And I mean, that Bo Burnham scene does have a, you know, like an analog, which is, you know, she wants to be in like with Bo Burnham, and she can't, and she kicks the thing over. She also wants to fucking, and we'll get to this later, but she also wants to destroy Alfred Molina. And she can't because he is sort of like apologetic for that. And so then she goes and destroys like a pickup truck 2 seconds later. But like this has to come out somewhere, you know, like it's moving in her body and then out of her body as soon as possible.
Yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have to take a break. But when we come back, a shopping spree through the film Promising Young Woman. This feels awkward.
Hola, Filterinos. I just wanted to interrupt real briefly and say thank you for listening. Thank you for your support. If you want to support us a little more directly, you can go to patreon.com/yourpopfilter. There, depending on what tier you pick, $1 a month, $5 a month. If you're crazy, anything more than $5 a month, don't do that. You can get extra content. There's extra shows, extra series, behind-the-scenes stuff. You could pay for Ryan to draw you a picture. I can write you a poem. You can get the shirts off our very own backs. All of that and so much more over at patreon.com/yourpopfilter. While you're on the internet, you should check out Shady Monk. He does all the tunes you've been listening to. He's on Bandcamp. He's on Spotify, SoundCloud, wherever kids get their music these days that I'm too old to know. Shady Monk lives there. You can probably follow him on Twitter and Instagram as well. That's Shady Monk. Wherever you get music, check him out.
Hey, Daddy, I want a golden goose.
Here we go again.
All right, sweetheart, all right. Daddy will get you a golden goose as soon as we get home.
No, I want one of those.
I'm gonna pop some tags. Only got $20 in my pocket.
That's right, folks. It's motherfucking shopping spree.
Boom.
Where we get a little time to take a break from talking about the movie and dive into the movie and not worry about all of the complications or do it. It's up to you. What we're going to do is you three, Mike, Greg, and Kate, are going to grab shopping carts. And I'm going to give you 30 seconds, but of course it's going to be 10 minutes and one at a time. Grab what you want to take out of this movie if the movie was its own shopping spree. Greg,
Yes.
you're up first. Where are we going?
All right, Ryan. I have the first pick, and that's a terrible responsibility. One I'm sure I won't live up to. But I am not going to let this one slip with the people who are drafting next to me. So got to jump in first. I don't want to say that much about it, but I would like the coffee that she spit in. Yeah, you're not getting the spit coffee, jerks. It's mine.
Wow. Isn't that how we automatically knew that Ryan was a terrible person is because he drank that coffee?
No.
Don't
it
kink
was
shame.
the cutest. I swear to God, I think that was the cutest meet cute I've seen in a very, very
No,
long time.
there's not.
I thought it was a very sweet
I don't
meet
think
cute.
we should. It's hard with Ryan, but I don't think we should necessarily discount everything Ryan does.
I swear
And-
to fucking God, Greg, if I hear
say
you
this to my
say
wife
that
all the
one
time.
more time.
But yeah, I'm a big coffee drinker. Everybody knows that.
And maybe you put a little spit, get a little.
And you like a little tang. All right. So Kate spit coffee is off the table. Where are we going?
Sorry, Kate.
I know. I'm going to go with all of the hair bows she wears throughout the entire movie. One of my favorite things about the giant equation that is the gender question is, like women have to deal with like gang rape and extreme physical violence, but you know what we do get? Colors. we get sparkles. We get fuzzy stuff and hair bows, and they rule, and they make everything a little bit easier. And I love that throughout this entire movie, she caters to just how much like girls like looking at fuzzy sweaters who have sparkles and little pom-pom pens. And
She has
I
a
love
revenge
the one-off
scrunchie.
hair bows. She has a
When
revenge
she's
scrunchie.
writing in her little revenge notebook, there's always the scrunchie she has on her wrist.
I know her little nails that are all different rainbow colors. Yeah, so I want her hair
Okay.
bows.
I feel like you could have waited on that one. But Mike, where are we going?
I'm going to do what I think I typically do. That I'm a real estate mogul, and people know that about me. I know horrific things happen there, but that goddamn cabin for the in the final segment looks so dope, and I just want to party with friends in fun, cool, totally nice ways, and nothing like what happens here. But I want that cabin.
You know what I thought was nice about that cabin? When Schmidt opens the door and he sees Carrie Mulgrew there, you notice this is a feminism win, and so I want to point it out. He says, the doctor's here. And I want you to think about that. I want you to think about that.
Yeah, he didn't say
He
the
didn't
nurse.
say
That's
that.
how you know
Right,
he's
he
one of the
didn't
good
say
Yeah.
ones.
So
Doctor's
just something
here.
to think about.
Yeah.
That is something to think about. After that round, hair bows is that the gummy bear company?
Yeah, that's Haribo is my favorite candy. I can't eat anymore
Haribos.
because of the slave
Because
labor.
they steal diamonds from slaves,
Oh, that's
right?
Well, they make kids do it.
well, all those slaves carrying their
Mike,
diamonds. What do they think's gonna
Mike,
happen?
real quick, name one candy you can eat that doesn't come at least in part from slave labor.
Sure, Greg, but I know for a fact
Ironically,
this
Sour
one
Patch
does. I know for a fact Haribo does. So
I'm just funning. I'm just saying it's kind of fun
I
the
know.
way so many of our products.
Sometimes Greg be goofy.
So yeah,
Yeah.
it's impossible to
This
be
is
a good
It's
person.
like the tomatoes.
Uh,
Anyway.
But I can't eat a 5-pound Haribo gummy bear a week like I used to, and that makes me sad.
I'm gonna. I cannot believe this, but I'm gonna give that point to Greg for spit coffee. Mike, it's your turn again. You have a rape cabin. Where are you going from
No.
there?
It's just a cabin.
It's just a cabin,
Hey,
Ryan.
so one man's rape cabin is another dude's cabin,
Yeah, that's what they
and
say.
that's how it happens.
That's why I don't ask real estate agents the history of
A
any
woman was
place,
only
man.
murdered in that cabin,
Oh,
you
that's
guys.
true.
We don't
That's
know
true.
that anybody was raped there.
I want to
hashtag not all men.
exactly. I want to decorate this totally normal cabin. Maybe it's because the shot is so stunning, but the opening shot, I want the leather couch that is so powerful it starts to eat into the wall in the first club bar she's in. It's so swanky and dope, man. It's probably not helping the vibes that Ryan is saying is part of my cabin.
Oh,
But
I would like
I think
for
it's a
my
cool
rape
party
cabin
place.
the rape couch that's in the first bar. Yeah, for sure.
You can just put that word in front of any other word and make it sound bad, man.
Kate, leather couch is off the
Yeah.
table. What are we taking?
I would like every single light fixture inside of Jennifer Coolidge's house. There is nothing that can win my heart over more than a tacky chandelier. And if there are 7, sign me up. Sign me up.
Oh man, you would love my grandmother.
I'm sure I would. I love old ladies and the boldness with which they decorate a space.
I love those parents. They are clearly like based on like 2 75-year-old parents. And instead
Yeah.
they're just like 55 or whatever they are. But how out of it they are in direct proportion to like in how much denial they are about whatever it is their daughter's doing. Because they know something is that she's lying to them. And so they are just swamped in their denial, and it has made them both into sort of like simpletons almost.
But still, like, selfish enough to seem like we just want a good breakfast. We actually don't care if you get fixed. We just want to have, like, a less awkward breakfast.
Yeah, we want it to seem.
I think they have. I
don't have to tell my friends that you suck anymore.
They didn't seem that bad to me. It seems like they have no idea what to do.
Are they worse than Donnie Darko's parents?
No, I think they're much better. I think there is sincere sympathy from the mother's side and a lack of understanding. And I think that the way the dad, the conversation that was had after dinner it felt very real. The kind of way fathers try and express.
I know, but he kept saying, like, oh, I wish that you were the way that you were before I had to do work.
Well, yeah, we really missed you. And I think that is hard, but also there is truth to, like, the ghost state of, like, she wasn't a person. You know, that's the thing, is that when we find her, she's not really a person.
Yeah.
So I don't mind that her dad doesn't like
I think
that.
she definitely, like, dies before this movie even starts.
Right.
Like, I was so shocked that she died. Then I'm like, dude, are you paying any fucking attention? Spoilers.
We'll get to that in a second. But Mike, what weird thing do you want to buy from this movie?
I mean, I'm going to own it now. Ryan made this happen, so I'm just going to keep going with the vibe of everything I'm getting. I'm taking McLovin's Coke.
Somebody should. That guy needs to be relieved of his cocaine.
I'm hanging out in a cabin with a giant red leather couch, just doing a mess of coke.
And before we move on, before we even
that
discuss
sounds rad.
it, Mike gets the points. Mike gets 2 points.
Yeah.
And Mike, you get another turn.
Whoa.
I get
Bonus
another turn.
That's how good. Hey, you did more coke. You get another turn.
Okay. Then I'm going to take
like
the wig she
Candyland.
has. The infamous wig from the poster, and when she's dressed up like the doctor. That wig is dope. I think it would make my life better if I had it on all the time.
We're not going to talk about the Variety article
collection of things,
in
Mike.
this show. So should we talk about it now? About how the Variety article called her out for, like, quote unquote not being hot enough and looking like she was someone in drag.
What?
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 I had not heard.
News to
I
you
have not-
guys.
Had not heard.
Honestly, my subscription to Variety ran out when I never had one, Ryan. Come on, bud. Variety?
I want to point out to Mike that between the cabin, the coke, the leather couch, and the wig, you are kind of dancing dangerously close to the Buffalo Bill archetype.
Oh, can I draft Wild Horses? I know it wasn't here, but I'm going to...
My final draft pick is a flowing robe from the film Silence of the Lambs.
Would you fuck me?
Oh,
Wait.
God.
All right,
That's
so Mike, what are you
bad.
taking again?
The dope rainbow wig.
No.
Kate, can you beat a rainbow wig?
I mean, okay, can I just, like...
Take the wig? No, Mike just did.
No, I know. I'm thinking, like, as a woman, what is my right in terms of reclamation in this moment? Okay, if I'm not allowed to take anything if I'm not kind of served reparations in this moment, then what I would like is Alison Brie's wine lips. She looks so drunk when her lips so blue. And I loved watching her fake day drunk. I love someone casually saying, "Are we out of a bottle? Let's
Yeah.
get another one." As if there's, for me, just like the shame of someone else witnessing that instinct.
Yeah, you should do that at home alone.
That's an alone time
While
activity,
watching Home
Allison.
Alone. Having seen the film Happiest Season, are we worried about Alison Brie's career and being typecast as a total bitch?
Oh, that's kind of been her thing from the beginning. She's so precocious and like kind of anxious seeming that, like, you know, in Glow, she's cast in a way that's supposed to be unflattering. In Community, she was cast as like a very like.
Well, I think that Glow was a little more
she's constantly-
three-dimensional than
You know what it is?
getting since then.
That's true.
I think to like keep herself in shape, she has made herself so angular and severe looking, which is demanded of her.
Yeah.
That is kind of pushing her into its space. Like she has to work out like 11 hours a
Wow.
day, and now she kind of
Now, she will always be the villain of
You're
the
so
Beverly
right.
Hillbillies.
So
No, you're so right. Like she has reached a certain kind of angularity that will typecast her forever to like this snippy asshole.
because she can't go back to
and
playing
has this-
18, so now she has to be
Exactly.
a super fit, whatever Alison Brie is in real life, and then that I think that starts So you just like, how many roles are there for women? You know, the bitch is always going to be in something, right? So like,
Yeah, the bitch is a classic.
It's a classic bitch.
All right, Mike, in this third round, you're up against Rainbow Wig and Wine Lips. Where are we going?
I feel like I haven't picked in a month of Sundays. Is anybody else feeling like it's never Greg's turn?
No, this is Greg's turn. He said Mike, he meant Greg, because I got the Rainbow Wig.
Oh, okay. Greg's turn. Woo!
Bet you feel like a little bitch now, Greg.
Yeah, you're that classic bitch.
All I had to do was get all whiny, and I got exactly what I wanted. So let's see. Okay. Gales is supposed... This is what I like about... One of the things I really like about this movie. Gales is supposed to be a shitty little coffee shop. Who would ever want to work there? They're not particularly nice to anybody, right? So you would expect it's going to be like dingy and shitty. Instead, it has like the nicest, tastiest looking treats I've ever seen. Gale's little coffee shop that she works at, including these little like Swiss roll looking things. And so I want some of these Gale's coffee shop tasty treats.
Good choice.
And you know, probably I'll like
They
I'll
sound yummy.
put some of them up on Instagram, and show people what I'm eating. Let them know.
Yeah.
I have seen myself in a rainbow wig and in Wine Lips. And once again, that's Greg. We're going to do one more round. Greg, what's the last thing that you're going to buy? Speed round.
Okay, last thing I'm gonna get. She has so many pretty pink fuzzies, but one of them she has is a pretty pink fuzzy sweater with like flowers on it. It just looks really nice and really cozy. And
Kate, go.
I'd hug it.
I want her medical kit. Seems practical for kind of
Oh,
survival.
my
modes.
goodness.
Go ahead.
Mike, go.
Yeah. Tire iron. Meat plus
Yeah,
road
these are
rage. It comes
utilitarian
with a
choices.
side of road rage.
And if you've ever been paying attention to what I am saying, it's sweaters all day. Greg gets that point. When we come back, more about Promising Young Woman.
Well, that is very, very funny. Or very sad. And perhaps now you have something to think about. Or very problematic. And perhaps we have something to think about. But in any event, I'm sure you have some reaction to what you're listening to. So why not check us out on the social media? You can go to Instagram or Twitter and find us at YourPopFilter. Email contacts@YourPopFilter. Hey, everybody. Keep watching them movies.
Back to Promising Young Woman, guys. That was all fun, right? Yeah.
It was fun.
Okay.
What a
But
hoot.
the content in this movie is upsetting and triggering. Revenge fantasy is a genre unto its own. What do we think about revenge fantasy films? What are they aiming to accomplish? And do we think that they end up accomplishing it? Revenge fantasy was a genre that sort of ruled the B movies of the 70s and 80s in a way that this is a throwback to that, but also a very 2020 movie. Do we think that it balanced both of those things at the same time?
Yeah, I think by playing with the expectations, because it's so B and pulpy, it hides those higher level thoughts within there, right? And gets away with more, because there's so many people who I think would see this because they're like, oh, a revenge movie, who it's a revenge movie plus an art house movie. And if it was just the art house movie, they'd be like, no. But because it has the trappings of a revenge movie, and then Kate is the reference that like plays with it, because revenge, we just want to see her bash that tire iron through McLovin's fucking teeth. And because we don't, you're always on the edge of the seat for that. And the mind games that happen that she plays, she's so much more subtle and smarter than the guy from Blue Ruin.
And in full disclosure, a great revenge movie, Mike. I will give you another point for that. In full disclosure, we are going to save the ending discussion for a different segment. So I don't know if this is going to be hard to talk about. But yeah, Greg and Kate, what do you guys think about what Mike just said?
I think that it's funny. A character suddenly at the end of the movie references 90s movies, and it seemed like a lot of times it had the trappings of a 90s thriller, and that I kind of expected, like, there is a twist in this movie, I think, but I expected there to be maybe a bigger twist. And I think that's one of the ways in which it plays with genre, is that you feel like there is that thriller-esque aspect to it. But I think when it's all said and done, the story of this movie remains pretty straightforward. We know what happens from the beginning. We know who the victim is, and we know that she is probably gone forever, right? And nothing is surprising in the course of the movie about any of that. I guess the twist is that Bo Burnham turns out to be a big piece of shit, but that's not quite the same level of twistiness as like 90s thriller movies. But I think it always plays with that.
So, Greg, when you say 90s thriller movies, what are you talking about?
I guess
Like Basic Instinct?
Yeah, like there was this whole genre of like sexualized thriller, what's going on,
Fatal Attraction.
twists of who the bad guy is, what is really going on, very twisty plots, and
Starship Troopers.
In those twists, somebody might seem at one moment like we don't know if this person is a killer or is a victim. And so then by the end, you're kind of left with a twisted story. That's what I meant of the 90s movie. Whereas this, I think when you get to the end, it's ultimately it's much more straightforward than that.
Kate, a lot of times on the show, we talk about tone backlash or genre backlash of, this whipped me back and forth too hard and therefore was like unenjoyable or so surprising that I was not entertained. We go from very funny moment to like this exploitation film, when she looks up before she kills Seth Cohen or does whatever she does to Seth Cohen, she looks up into the camera and smiles, and then it cuts to a title screen with the Roman numerals of the like we're setting up a thing here, and then we also have like a rom-com middle, we have a rom-com act 2. Is this tonal whiplash?
It's hard to say. I think it is, and it's very intentional. So I think then the question is like, is it effective in what it's trying to do?
Does it work? Yeah.
Yeah. A part of me thinks that conversation goes all the way back to the question of revenge films to begin with, which is movies with the idea of reclamation involved. So a lot of exploitation films are like that, especially from the 70s. And it doesn't have to be sexploitation stuff, It can also be blaxploitation. It can be a lot of different sort of reappropriating oppressive narratives in a way that makes asserting your story as equally valid. We see that in like Django Unchained. This is a very similar type of idea, which is like replenishing a very toxic story with like the perspective of those who suffered at the hands of it for a very long time. I think that's very important. But I think that this is like a conversation that is writ large throughout our culture, which is like how much does like being Paris Hilton, who is very keenly aware of the image she is projecting and is very self-exploitative and is very aware of the system in which she's operating as like this blonde woman, with certain whatever, like the questions of what is healed by reappropriating things, I think is very hard. Because there's something you want to feel satisfied seeing those men go to jail, but you don't, because you just watched a woman be suffocated for 2 minutes. There isn't, for me at least, I can't speak for all women. I can't speak for anyone, but that is
not all women.
Hashtag not all women. I definitely think that I think it's hard. I think it's hard to know whether or not there is something to be found, some healing to be found in these kind of films. When I talk to my female friends about watching this movie, female friends, mom, sister, people, none of them wanted to watch it. And the people who did said that were like, yeah, I could see myself watching it, meaning like they'd have to gear themselves up to watch it. So then who is that audience for? Who is this movie for and what is it giving to them? I think that's a genre question that Emerald Fennell does a really good job at kind of like picking at.
Okay, so then I guess the ultimate question of this segment is Emerald Fennell asking questions and starting conversations that we need to answer and we need to have? Or does it feel like, oh, she only cares about the conversations that happen after you watch the movie?
No, I think she's taking to task revenge fantasies as well, because what's great about over the top violence is it is that release and catharsis and like this like old school biblical feeling justice. But by the way Cassie gets her revenge, like what she does to the Dean Tammy Coach's wife, you're like, oh, you broke that person in a way I would rather watch you beat her face in than what you made her go through, making her think her daughter was in the middle of being raped. And so it started spiraling me of like, is revenge okay? Which is like maybe a simple question, but like,
all right,
I think so many of the more basic movies are just like, hell yeah, it is, and don't interrogate that.
Yes, I do think that this movie does succeed and fail both at the same time of asking and answering questions, right? As opposed to just the asking or just the answering, which both of those types of movies are terrible. Why don't we focus in on that segment that Mike just brought up? Cassie goes in and talks to Connie Britton, who, much like all of the supporting actors in this movie, Connie Britton has only played the best people, and now
y'all.
Now she's put into this role of somebody who heard about Nina, Cassie's best friend, getting raped or gang raped, and did nothing about it to protect promising young men because we don't want to ruin their future. The way that Cassie handles this is to find a girl who is dressed fully like Cher from Clueless.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
like the Clueless, I think, is all over this movie as much as any 70s
the girly
revenge
film is. Anything that is like, that's a whole. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, she takes that daughter, Connie Britton's daughter, to a donut store and says like BTS or somebody is going to come and like, you know,
wet dreams.
Shoot a video with you, but makes Connie Britton think that her daughter was taken to a frat, a similar
the frat,
no,
the exact same house,
same frat that ended up raping Nina. And this is the point where we're like, oh damn, if Cassie is Iron Man, if Cassie is Tony Stark in these vigilante movies that we're comparing, we don't have that moment with Tony Stark. You know, so does the movie turn for you guys?
Not even when he made Ultron?
Not even. And Cassie could have done that at any point. Does that change your opinion about Cassie and Emerald Fennell and her movie?
Well, she just makes you feel like how it would feel, right? I mean, she very purposely never puts a woman into a situation in which she would be alone with a man and at his mercy, because you literally, this is perhaps the most harsh indictment offered by the movie, you literally can't do that. You can't just take a woman and just put a woman with a man. Like, you couldn't risk that. The thought that happened.
Well, she does, though, in a different situation where...
With Alison Brie, right?
With Alison Brie, she said...
But no, she doesn't, though. She doesn't. She pays that guy very specific... She makes sure that she has paid somebody to not do that, because it has to be a professional person, because you couldn't just...
A professional not raper?
Yeah, because you couldn't just leave her drunk in that
don't
bar.
Rape women.
I'm putting that on my resume from now
exactly.
on. Because if you just left her drunk in that bar in this society, there is too good a chance that she will literally get raped. So you have to actually pay somebody to sort of go through the motions of pretending to do that, because that's how dangerous it is. So
not only
like,
that, I think that one of the very interesting and subtle things that she did within that like revenge fantasy specifically was that I don't think the guy implied that he raped her. What she did was leave Alison Brie entirely in her own head about what happened. So all of that blame, all of that fear, all of that anxiety, all of that self-doubt, that is how she tortured Alison Brie. And so, yeah, it is like paying him not to rape her, but it's also like all of the torture is within her own mind based on the guilt of getting drunk enough to be compromised. And that is that is exactly what makes it such an effective parallel to the Nina story.
So that's what I guess that's what doesn't like in the moment where you think that maybe she has subjected this woman's daughter. That then I was like, holy shit, what's going on? And a lot of the framing at to this point in the movie has been like very evocative of horror movies, and that continues at different times. But the viewer does not quite know what the viewer is seeing yet, and you're really questioning like, what am I going to put up with in the name of watching this woman get revenge. But when you do realize that it's just in this woman's head, it feels different, because it feels like that has to be the battleground. It has to be our feelings, our ability to like project ourselves into situations and feel for victims. That is what we have to learn how to do. And if the only way we can do it is not through empathy, but to literally be put into what we think is the same situation, then that seems, I don't know, permissible.
Okay, but what about the fact, though, that at a certain point, like I would say, like this movie has 3 acts. I don't know if any other movie has ever done that, but I'm going to say that this movie does. The middle act feels like...
Brave to say.
I thought it worked.
Going from, I'm going to make men pay to I'm going to make women pay. I'm going to make women think about their responsibility in this.
It's a rape culture. You know, like the patriarchy like extends its tentacles into all of us. None of us get free of it. Even the ladies. The ladies get caught up in the patriarchy, and they do it just as hard as the gents sometimes.
Yeah, because Alison Brie is like, well, she drank, so you kind of deserves it.
There is anecdote moment. So do you guys remember Mattress Girl? She was quite popular.
Oh,
yeah. So Mattress Girl was they were carrying their mattress all around campus my freshman year of college. So I arrived to New York City from rural Arizona to like greet my adult interaction with sex with stories of extreme violence all around, all the time. And I remember at 18, absolutely disregarding what that person said because of the lawyers who pulled up the direct messages on her Facebook profile that had her flirting with him after the rape. And it was because I didn't know, because your mom instills that in you. Your mom tells you if you get drunk, you will be raped because your mom is afraid that you will get hurt. And so then it becomes incumbent upon you to constantly be behaving as if you have to hold up your experience in court. And it makes everything awful and everything terrifying. So, you know, that's just that kind of shit. It colors everything and makes everything. It's so easy to, when a woman is seeing another person who's attacked, to immediately jump to identifying with it, and because of internalized misogyny, hating yourself for putting yourself in that position and therefore not believing that person. It's incredibly toxic, and it is a culture that exists both in men and in women.
And with that specific instance, so I'm sure often so many people having shared that same campus experience, or I would guess very different, but in the same location as Kate, people being like, well, she's an asshole, which should not come up in this conversation at all. But often the person's moral fiber will start to be taken down because we, as a society, we can't handle that bad things happen to anybody. So we start to look for, what did they do? Not just drinking, but in general, who are they in the world to deserve that? Because they have to have. Not
me, right? I mean, that's what it is, just over and over again. Not me. Like it can't happen to me because I wouldn't do that. I don't have an experience like that. There must be something that protects me from that. It must be my behavior, and it's because we are terrified, I think, as a society, to look at the full scope of this problem. I always talk about the Lolita podcast, Jamie Loftus, the Lolita podcast. One thing she points out in that is when Freud was first like putting together his ideas, he looked at sexual abuse within families, and it looked so bad to him that people recommended that he help cover up the problem and say that all of these people must just be making it up. And since then, that has been our perspective on it, that sexual violence can't be as pervasive as everybody says it is. It just can't be, right? Yeah. And we are so afraid of what's going to happen if we say, holy shit, you guys, we are like deeply, deeply, deeply fucked.
Yeah.
And we have to start actually seeing it and not just constantly saying not me and finding some way to turn away, even though that's the single most human thing you can do sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's not just that, but like the go-to question is, what did you do to get abused? As opposed to the first question, which is, why did they abuse you? Like, what did this person do to, like, why would this person abuse you? We're like,
everything about this movie is like questions of provocation.
And the Connie Britton says it. She's like, well, we have to give these young men the benefit of the doubt but never entering in why not give these young women the benefit of the doubt. Like it's just stacked. Like, of course we give Bash from Glow the benefit of the doubt. Look how handsome and rich he is, and white.
Yeah.
And
And white, no less.
I know this movie feels like that it is preaching to the choir a lot of the time, but I think this movie does.
Apparently, the choir really needs to hear it.
Yeah, well,
I keep sensing.
I think this movie does a really good job of saying, although we're protecting this promising young man's life and we're making sure that it happens, his victims, their lives are ruined. And what if they were able to go on and accomplish things? Like what if this guy went to jail and these two women could go on knowing that he's in jail, and Nina and Cassie, and then accomplish wonderful things. And we have to protect the promising young man.
Yeah, and that's that specific factor that is so prevalent throughout the movie. It's the narrative construct, which is the like effect outside this. Carey Mulligan isn't the one who was raped and filmed. It's the effect outside of it that this movie kind of centers. And you can apply this to everything because, thinking about the Cuomo stuff coming out lately, abuse of power is ubiquitous. And again, what is so hard for people to understand who aren't living it or witnessing it or like helping people get through it is lives are changed. That Cuomo being a fucking reverberations are huge. Cuomo being a fucking freak. There are women who are not pursuing politics because of that. I have had friends who have had internships at very prestigious places who, like, because of XYZ reason, now don't work in that field. That is the most infuriating thing is the consequences outside of the trauma. Because trauma, we can all be like, okay, yeah, we know what it is to be hurt in this moment, and we know what it is, and we can have sympathy for that. But it's those repercussions that completely dictate the fabric of a whole like community's future that is so often forgotten in these movies. And I think that's what this one did really, really well.
We have to go to trivia.
Kate.
Oh boy.
Trivia.
Oh God. Okay, guys. We're gonna take a break from talking about the movie.
Yeah.
And
Let's get goofy.
We're gonna talk to trivia. You guys know how trivia works. Say your name. That's how you buzz in. Here we go. What is the name of the Robert Mitchum movie featured in the film?
Night of the Hunter. Kate. Night of the Hunter.
Kate. What is it?
Night of the Hunter.
Night of the Hunter. Yes. Say your name and then say the answer after I call on you.
Cool.
Number two.
Kate.
When does the Night of the Hunter come up for a second time in the movie?
Mike.
In
the middle.
I'll
Ryan.
leave that open for
Greg.
Greg.
Actually, slightly after that, really.
Okay. Kate, anything? Kate, no answer? No, it's the lullaby that we hear when Cassie is watching the rape video. Director Emerald Fennell played which character on The Crown?
Kate. Camilla Parker Bowles.
She played Camilla Parker Bowles.
Man, she's good in that.
I know, she's really good.
Who played the host of the Blowjob Lips YouTube video that Cassie watches?
Greg.
The
director, Emerald Fennell.
Yeah, Emerald Fennell.
It's the director.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Greg.
I was hoping so hard that you said Camilla Bowles.
I recognize folks.
What would you keep your vegetables that are not members of the root family in, but are not carrots?
Mike. An emerald funnel? I'm just trying to think of Ryan wordplay.
Yeah, I know.
That's incorrect.
Ryan, say it again. Just give us it one more time.
All right. What would you keep your vegetables that are members of the root family but not carrots in? What would you keep them in?
Okay, I'm thinking. I'm going potatoes, Yukon, but I don't think.
Isn't it gonna be fennel something?
Anything. Fennel something. I thought fennel was a seed.
What do you keep vegetables in?
A drawer.
A crisper.
Fennel drawer, Ryan.
A potato sack, Ryan.
Oh, I think you're a cellar door.
Incorrect. It's fennel bowls. It's fennel. I combined
Fennel
the fennel bowl. Three of the actors in this movie appeared on New Girl. Name them.
Kate.
I love the hand raise. I wish the listeners could see
Thank
it.
you. Max Greenfield.
Yes.
Bo Burnham.
I don't know. Maybe. Huh?
Is Bo Burnham?
No.
Okay. Okay. So someone else's
Actually,
turn?
I'm going to give 3 points for this. Okay, gets
Okay.
one.
Mike.
Sam
Richardson.
Mike.
Greg.
He was Winston's partner.
Oh,
Greg?
fun.
I thought that was Nassim Pedrad. Shit. McLovin.
No.
Kate. Chris Lowell.
No.
Wait. Okay.
Somebody used to date
Kate,
Jess
Kate.
and Kate.
Oh no, I was going to say Laverne Cox, and I don't think that's very
Kate,
New
name
Girl.
people from the movie that we watched.
Laverne
That's how
Cox
you
was
get
in the
points.
movie.
Laverne Cox
Cox
was
was
in the movie.
Gail,
Ryan.
You stupid
Sorry.
dummy.
All right, the other answer was Jess used to date Seth Cohen.
That's the name I said.
Oh. So
Who
his
is
name was
Adam
Seth
Brody married to? It's not Summer Roberts.
Mike. Rachel Bilson.
Incorrect.
That is Summer Roberts.
Yeah. Married.
Greg.
Yeah, Greg.
Emerald Fennel.
That's a good guess.
She's from, I think, Gossip Girl. Her name is Leighton Meester.
Meester.
Are they really married?
What would happen? I'm sorry, hold on. What would Happy Gilmore call Adam Brody's wife if she fell out of a window?
Greg. Meester.
It is Mr.
Yeah. Hey, you know that Mr. lady? I think she's dead.
I think I just killed her. All right. Why do you hope that Bo makes turkey for Christmas dinner?
Mike. Because he won't burn him.
I'm going to say incorrect.
But he will burn him, right?
So close.
Robert Burnham?
Why do you want him to make turkey for Christmas dinner?
Locale, kind of a healthier lean meat.
Because Bo will burn him.
Okay.
Bo will burn him.
The answer is because you want him to make turkey because Bo burn ham.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Ryan, I can tell you're frustrated with us for not getting your jokes, and I want you to know that the audience will be on our side.
Yeah, thanks,
I
audience.
sincerely doubt that. What is the name of Chris Lowell's character on Veronica Mars?
Greg.
Chris Lowell plays Bash and also the ultimate murderer.
Yeah.
The ultimate murderer. Hey, man, you're
seen
never going to
Veronica
get away
Mars.
with a name like that. I'm the ultimate murderer.
Mike.
Yeah, Mike.
I don't think it's right, but Logan?
No.
That's the guy from iZombie.
It's Piz.
Piz?
Please say your name before you ring in here. What is the name of the character's candy dispenser based on that character?
Pez.
Greg.
Kate, Pez.
Greg.
Piz.
Greg.
Kate.
You
Piz,
didn't
Pez,
say
Pez.
Kate.
I said it, though, in the end, and that Kate is that Pez. And Piz.
Incorrect. What is the name of the character's candy dispenser?
Greg.
Piz is Pez.
Correct.
Piz is Pez.
Piz is Pez dispenser?
It's Piz Pez.
Piz Pez.
I'm going to give it to Greg.
Yeah.
I just watched
brutal.
horror at all of
I was
it.
really
I didn't even think
circling
about
the-
answering.
I was really circling the drain on that one. I was so close.
It was Piz Pez. Animal hands were added to that character candy dispenser. What are those called?
I wasn't listening. Repeat the question for
Yeah,
Kate,
repeat
please.
the question, Ryan.
Animal hands were added to that character's candy dispenser. What are those called?
Mike.
Piz is Pez
Mike.
Paws.
Piz is Pez Paws.
Piz Pez Paws.
Piz, Pez,
Fuck.
pause.
Can't just say your name.
Yeah, it's
I'm sorry. I'd hate to intrude.
No, you are intruding all over and you love it.
just follow the rules.
Those animal hands on that Veronica Mars character candy dispenser are used to handle turds. What are those called?
Piz Pez Paws Poops. Kate.
Kate, just say your fucking name first. Kate, go ahead.
Kate. Piz Pez Paws Poops.
It's Piz Pez Paws Poos. Those turds that were handled by the bare hands of the Veronica Mars character candy dispenser watched the film The Help and was inspired to bake. What did they make?
Mike.
Kate. Piz
Mike.
Pez Paws.
Piz,
Mike.
Pez, Paws, Poops, Pie.
That is correct. Mike. Also, that pie, Mike, is upset. What is it called? Oh, this is for everybody. What is it called?
Piz, Pez, Pie, pissed?
Greg, say your name.
Greg.
Kate. Piss, piss, pie, pissed.
Piss,
pie,
piss, pie, piss.
I think we missed some, so it's
Just there's
Mike,
so
Piss,
many.
pie-
Mike, there's so
piss,
many.
Pez, pie, poop, pie, pez. Damn it.
It's pissed pies pies, piss pies poos pies. I'm gonna give that to me.
Yeah, that's a rhyme point.
And now we're
that's
doing
tri-
shopping spree.
And that's trivia. When we come back, another taste bud. Kate,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Michael.
Yeah?
Gein. Das.
I wonder if Promising Young Woman is going to get a legacy, if it's going to get a reputation for its ending. I do want to spend a little bit of time on that right now, and I'm going to start by asking guys this, and then you guys can fight over it. Women have a complicated relationship with dying at the end of novels and movies and such.
We have a problem with that.
Is it,
Women be dying.
Women be
is it
dying.
disappointing? And I want to focus on that word, disappointing. Is it disappointing that Cassie dies?
I was disappointed. This question speaks to me. First of all, it's just well put. But I initially was disappointed. I just watched a movie, or I watched part of a movie, and then my wife told me how it ended, called I Care a Lot. And spoilers,
the worst movie I've seen in 20 years, by the way.
and spoilers for I Care a Lot to follow here. But she also dies at the end of that. And
Rosamund
it's just,
Pike.
yeah, and it's just it's just okay, so this woman did something, and now at the end of the story she dies. But then I was like, you know what? I don't know. Her she died and rose again to haunt the people who wronged her.
She
it's not
died
the same.
and rose again to Pike. There's two endings that we have to talk about, because first I want to talk about the fact that she does die. She gets smothered for 2.5 minutes
It's
by
rough
Bash from
to watch.
And she's not
In IRL, real
And then-
time.
IRL have to watch it. Yeah.
There's another 20 minutes after that. So I want to talk about the fact that Cassie dies, and then later, guys, in 5 minutes, we're going to talk about the rest of the movie.
and she dies screaming, crying.
It's
I
a
don't-
brutal thing to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is if before that moment, if you were like, this is just a normal revenge movie and you're missing a lot of the stuff, this is gonna if the brutality of watching it has missed you so far, Emerald made sure well, I'm gonna fucking get you by the end, and put the 2.5 minute actual she talked to cops and were like, how long does it take to die by suffocation with a pillow, and made sure they filmed it like you would.
Wow.
When
That is
as viewers, not just analyzers, but viewers, when were you like, oh fuck, she's actually dead? Were you guys holding on to hope for minutes after?
No.
Just go back and be
No.
a real revenge movie, and she sits up and stabs him or something.
No, this is for fun.
When she was the way in which Carey Mulligan screams and cries during it, it's not it feels very final. I mean, I did not think she was going to suddenly pop up again. And then that is what makes her popping up in any form again kind of remarkable, right? Because then she does come back as a disembodied, now she really is dead, and she really is just this
A text ghost.
of
text ghost.
of revenge.
Which is funny because I found that ghosting actually typically involved no texts.
That's why she's ahead of the curve.
Let me ask you this.
So
Kate.
there's that. Oh,
Does she have a death wish the entire movie? Is this the only way the movie could have ended?
I don't know if it's because she had a death wish. I do think it's the only way this movie could have ended if we're just looking at female narrative tropes. In terms of, as again, glass push-up, literature degree, from a women's college. I have a lot to say about this. I think that, there was no way she was living to see the end of that movie. And I think I definitely picked up on that at the beginning, because of the pure, and outside of even a narrative level, a pure gut instinct as a woman, seeing someone put herself in that situation where every single fucking week she was pretending to be fall over drunk, in front of these men. That was not going to, she's not safe. She isn't actually a superhero. She's a woman. who puts herself in incredibly dangerously compromising positions.
She gets literally sexually assaulted every time she does
every
it.
single time, yeah.
Because
yeah.
she makes sure it goes as far as that, so she can know.
So that way
no
black
matter
and
what,
white-
she's getting
yeah.
panties pulled off or
Yeah.
forced
Yeah.
kisses
Her job
or whatever.
Her job is to externalize the transgression of boundaries that women feel internally, externally, which requires a man to register that what he has done is sexual assault. And it's actually quite hard to get them to kind of register that super easy. And
Yeah.
it has to go to a certain level, which does involve explicit violence against her. And I think that when we're looking at, like, there are two resolutions to a traditional female narrative, and that's marriage or death. And we knew she wasn't getting married. And so to me, I think that is part of what Emerald
did
was
we not
kind of
know that,
commenting
though?
on. What do you mean?
Did we think that, like, halfway through the movie, did we think that she was going to get married?
Right. I think the
that the
movie
point
gave
of
us
the movie?
that hope in the middle, to be like, let's chill out. And so
Yeah.
it hits even harder to determine the one nice guy in the movie is also a fucking dirtbag. Ryan
Yeah.
is a fucking dirtbag.
I don't know.
Dirtbag.
His name is whatever.
Ryan's a dirtbag, and at that point there is no going back because she had hope for the first time in years, and then once Ryan is a dirtbag, she is like, oh no,
That's
and then
broken.
that's when she's gonna take out everybody as hard as she can on the way out.
I have something to say about Bo Burnham that I do not think you guys would say. And that is, I think that his casting in this role is perfect. And I'm
would
saying that
definitely
as a perspective. Say that again?
No, I definitely agree. I think that.
Yeah, I think that he was perfectly cast. And I think he's perfectly cast beyond his personal skill, which I think is incredible. I really am a huge Bo Burnham fan. When Bo Burnham was first happening, when he was a 16-year-old wonder kid doing comedy songs, his target demographic was me. Me and Fulton were talking about this a couple when we were going over this movie. Bo Burnham's target demographic were girls, were 11, 12-year-old girls. And throughout his entire career, he has talked about the fact that is his target demographic. Enough so that, like, eventually he'd make 8th grade.
He would
which
direct
is-
a movie
which is
clearly proving that.
which is a oh my god, it's a love letter to the young women who are exploited constantly before they even know what that is. And not only is so this relationship between, like, women my age with Bo Burnham is very specific because of that, because he constantly and forever since we were children shown respect and consideration for the experience of his audience. He also was a YouTube star, which, like, in different generations, very different. Like, if you're 11, 12 and YouTube was just happening, that is an incredibly intimate space. It's one divorced of your parents. It's one you have inside of your own home. And so those YouTubers you form bonds with are, like, very powerful. And so Bo Burnham, between, like, being an advocate for, like, 12, 13-year-old girls my entire life, all of his material has always been about, like, an awareness of his position in one way or the other. And also he's super crushable. Like, every woman I know has had a crush on Bo Burnham since they were 12 because he's, like, so likable and so nice and whatever. When he is seen on that tape, or when we're heard on that tape, I had a full hand over mouth, like, tear up moment, because it was like, Bo, no,
Yeah.
you represented everything that made me feel safe in this world. And that was torn away. I thought he was perfectly cast for that reason.
Yeah, because that moment is even not because Bo Burnham doesn't call himself a nice guy, or Ryan doesn't call himself a nice guy, but that moment of saying even the real nice guys have some skeletons in their closet,
Yeah.
have been around fucked up stuff, because that's just how fucked up the world is.
Yeah. Oh god, that's happened to me. I've been crazy about guys who have, like, oh, that rapist's still in your band. Oh, you co-owned a boat with that guy. Both two examples.
Okay, don't trust anybody who co-owns a boat.
No.
Young men should not own boats.
If you're a guy, you're either in a band or co-own a boat. Those are the two types of dudes. And no matter what, it's terrible.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of that, a lot of casting of men in this that are likable outside the space of the movie, and that is kind of used against you, like Adam Brody or Sam Richardson.
Oh,
Max
yeah,
and
that's the whole
Greenfield.
point.
Max Greenfield's whole thing is that he's, like, charming.
I feel like the one that was a misstep in a lot of different ways, and the one that I'm having trouble processing is casting McLovin. His performance to me was the only. I felt like he, more than any other guy in the entire movie, made sure that you understood that the real McLovin is not like the guy that he's portraying, and that offended me so deeply because, first of all, this McLovin guy is probably the guy who's most like me, and so I see a lot of myself in the character, and I loathe it.
So sorry.
Yeah, and so I hate him because I see myself in him, right? And but I hate when actors play actors, but they don't make it real so that you know that the real actor is not actually a cannibal or whatever. And that's what McLovin does here. He wants you to know that he's not as bad as this guy that he's portraying. But the rest of them seem to do a pretty good job of like really being a likable guy in real life, but in this movie acting like this nice guy trope, which has really become like the worst type of guy.
Right.
A woman's instinct. McLovin is probably, of all those actors, the one who most likely has horrific skeletons.
That and says I'm a nice guy, but I think that's why he played a parody of a LA actor, and he was saying things like Roman does on Party Down, like that super pretentious film. He's very like guy in your MFA. Everything he was saying, what felt cartoonish in a way that none of the other dudes felt. Even Sam Richardson's fedora felt more real.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the whole time the actor Christopher Mintz-Plasse was just being like, "Oh, be like James Franco, my good friend James Franco." Yeah, I will definitely do that.
I do wonder, don't know him, no dog in this race, is he was the coked up character, so if his angle was not to protect the real Christopher Mintz-Plasse, but it was like, how do coked up people sound?
Right there. No, right there. It's... Then he misconstrued the project, at least as depicted by Emerald, to every single other one of the cast members.
I know,
because
guys.
She explicitly was casting women that are funny, so the other women feel comfortable on set. So it's like, if he's doing, I don't know, Bo Burnham and all of those other comedic guys they're all willing to kind of put it on the line, their actual reputation.
Yeah. They might also be better actors than Christopher Mintz-Plasse.
They also might just be better.
I gotta say though, like I do agree with that. Like this is going to sound hacky, but I cannot wait for Emerald Fennell's next movie. You know, like, I thought this was good. I think her next one's going to be great.
Dude, it's the one after that's really going to be a smash. Personally, that's what I think.
I don't think she cared about how Christopher Mintz
her in memoriam is going to be
in this movie.
And because she's a woman, Kate has taught us she will die at the end.
She will die at the end. If she's not married.
Oh, no, she's going to die eventually?
All right, welcome to Speed Round, folks. Here we go. Are the people comparing this film to Joker completely missing the point?
Yes.
All right, just Kate might get points there. Greg,
I don't think
not.
I don't think they're missing the point. I think the movie is making that point. I think you're supposed to come to that stupid conclusion.
The director's name is Emerald Fennell. What's another mineral/herb combo that could be a name?
Diamond oregano.
Kate Sapphire.
Diamond oregano.
Fuck.
What was yours? I just want to hear everybody's. Kate Sapphire what?
I was going to be a sapphire anise. I thought that sounded beautiful.
Quartz time.
Ooh,
it's quartz time.
Baby.
Quartz time feels like a pretty big person around town until Diamond Oregano walks out of the
boom.
Did you guys know that? Oh shit! Did we do the last question? Did we talk about the ending yet?
Yes.
We did talk about the ending.
Did we though?
Right. Did you guys
Oh no, because you said we'll talk about it again.
Yeah, I don't know if
in
I
5 minutes
about
the real ending, and then we talked about a lot of things there, Ryan.
Oh, we didn't talk about it, but do you guys know that you can schedule text messages? Is that something?
No, I've never heard that.
Is this a paid app?
You know what I know that they don't do? They definitely don't say in an individual text message.
The dots, yeah.
Comment or what is it? Whatever message. Pre-written message. What would they scheduled message. They definitely don't send a text saying scheduled message :
What if she did to fuck with him? And maybe she scheduled out 18-1, so it would go ...
Oh, I mean, clearly she had to have, just for the mechanics of it.
Enough.
I want to do this.
Enough.
Does Cece know what Schmidt is up to?
No.
I was able to forget that it was Schmidt, except for the
Never.
okay. But here's a moment where I
always
could
that
not.
guy.
when he notices that she is dead, which is the
His
worst
physicality.
possible time for him to suddenly seem like Schmidt, that is when he seems so
The
special. Be like,
Schmittiest.
Cecilia! What's going
Cecilia,
on
why is
here?
the stripper dead in the bed?
The physical and his physical like recoil was very. I mean, that's the thing is that we did hire comedic actors, and they
Yeah.
are funny. That's like that whole scene is shocking. Actually, the scene of just the two guys.
Yeah.
Because one, it's the only tenderness we see, like,
Yeah.
and it's like disgusting to watch is to
Right.
see
Yeah.
these men like take care of each other, and it's
always
also
is.
two incredible comedic actors. I love Chris Lowell saying, "It seems
Yeah.
like it's kind of my fault."
Yeah. Yeah, it's very darkly funny.
Yeah, it's very darkly funny.
Chris
but it is
Lowell
kind of
has
outside
been,
of the rest of the movie.
Chris Lowell was Piz in Veronica Mars and Bash on Glow, and now I fucking
Never has a normal name.
I fucking hate his guts. All right,
Why?
He was a little too good at pretending to murder her.
He was a really good.
He did not do the McLovin thing where he was like, "Ooh, how would you even smother?" This is, I guess, how somebody pretentious would do it.
Well,
he was like, "I would grab my foot to get extra leverage on my
Right.
Yeah.
knee."
This performance was great. Is that he was angry. She dared to make him face his younger mistakes, and that
Yeah.
That's
the
exactly what
minute
it
he
was.
jumped on her, he wanted to kill her.
Yeah.
Next one. What is the likelihood? What is the percentage of dudes who watch this movie and say hashtag not all men as they're watching it?
Wait, out loud or in their mind?
I'm gonna say, you know what? Both out loud or in their mind.
Oh, okay. Then we're gonna go top number. I'm gonna go at least 65.
I'm gonna
Out
go
loud
higher.
or in their mind? Oh yeah,
No,
I think
both.
No, at least 65 in their mind. I'm being generous. I don't know. You guys tell me. Am I being too
Kate,
kind
I think
to
there
you?
are elements to this movie that we are blinded from by being men, and there's an element that you are blinded from being a woman. I would say 100% of men at some point in this movie would be like, wait a minute, not all dudes are. Because that is, I think it is meant to trigger that in
Yeah.
you on some level. So that on some level you will, against your will, because that's how it happened to me, you will be like, but wait, at least some are. Isn't there going to be one? Can't there just be one moment where a guy, and that's a moment of being not all men. I mean, that's what
Yeah.
it looks like.
yeah. I think it's that moment flashes very on purpose is when Ryan ends up having been at the film.
Yeah.
Rate. You're like, we're not allowed one good guy in here, and if
Yeah.
part of your hackles
Yeah.
raised at that, it's like,
Welcome
oh,
to
fuck
the
you.
female dating world.
Exactly. Yeah.
Not one.
And
Throw me
again,
a friggin' bone.
if I can just point out that Ryan, the character, played by Bo Burnham,
Yes.
and not
Yes,
me.
obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody would invite Ryan to any kind of party.
Yeah, no, Ryan isn't showing up anywhere he should.
Kate.
All right, final one.
That felt directed.
Feels pointed.
And final speed round question, Kate.
Yes.
We're good guys, right?
We're good boys, right, Kate?
I grant you all good boy status. I think
And you
guys
forgive
are.
us for any transgressions?
I won't go that far. I do want you
Smart.
guys
Don't
to sit
do
in your
that.
discomfort because I'm 100% certain that you guys felt weird after watching this movie. So, we're all part of the system. It's awful. And I know that at least, I know for sure that at least you three feel guilty.
So many times on the show we've said like, oh, this movie changed my life, but like I've gone through like the 20-year work of like, I'm a straight white male, let's dismember
Fix
that and think about it.
Dismember.
And it's so funny every time you're like, I think I'm there, and then watching this I was like, you're fucking nowhere, you piece of
Yeah.
mud dog shit. Like,
Because the more you
just
think
a
you're
piece
there.
of butt dog shit.
Yeah. No, the closer you think you are, there's 1,000 violences you have no clue you're enacting, which is true of a lot of everyone has that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But white men, I'm glad you guys are really feeling the burden of it.
But
that's my
I like
kink
it.
actually, so it's been pretty great for me.
That's the hard part about disciplining men.
Bummer.
I mean, it's not the only hard part.
the enthusiasm with which you delivered that. There's a whole little motion.
Yeah, I had a good fun.
All right, we have to give this movie awards, and then
Yes.
we have to decide where we think it's going to go in the bracket. So we're going to take a break, and when we come back, best performance in this movie. Oh my goodness! Promising Young Woman, you were all three of those things. But now it's time for awards where, you know what, girl? I have this weird feeling where you're going to get nominated for almost everything and win nothing. And so what we're going
That's
to
a
do right now is
classic.
we're going to give 6 awards to you. 6.
Dang.
Let's start with Mike.
I'm Mike.
Hi, Mike.
Hello.
The first
Award for
award
Best
is,
Mike.
is Best Use of Music. Mike, what do we got?
Mine, there's too many options. I guess that's what makes this an award. But every time I thought I nailed it down, it would get wiped away, and it has to be the four-piece quartet or whatever it is of Toxic, the orchestral Toxic, as she's putting on her nurse outfit and getting ready to go and going towards the cabin. It just fucking captures the movie perfectly.
Vibe. Toxic, the single best pop song of the 21st century. # we're sorry, Britney.
Yeah,
Wow.
I mean, doesn't
should
that
say it
extra?
now.
But doesn't the extra layer of Britney being like a literal prisoner of her father,
Oh,
and
it's
being like,
perfect.
"I would love to be free," and
Yeah.
judges being like, "Not yet."
Britney Spears as a character, Britney Spears, it's not that her aesthetic was ever the most relatable woman in the world. It's just been her reality for a very, very long time. And and she, on top of that, has pop banger after pop banger, and there's nothing cooler than the song Toxic.
Except for maybe this version of the song,
Yes,
"Toxic," and the
precisely.
slow way the movie like puts it together.
Oh, yeah.
It's like
really
the
good.
song is kind of built over like a
It
couple
sounds so
minutes of film.
spooky.
Allegedly, that Emerald Fennell sent Carey Mulligan a mixtape of what the movie was supposed to be.
Mixtape?
and Toxic was on there twice. So
Yeah.
it's an important song.
It's an important song for all of us.
Greg,
Yes.
Needle Drop. Where are we going?
Okay, so that's obviously it. But the opening and the sound, I listened to the soundtrack this morning. Man, banger after banger. A lot of confusing songs in there. Some that I was aware of, but his hits felt like kisses, or when he hits me, if it feels like kisses.
The Crystals. He hit
Yeah.
me and it felt like a kiss.
Woo.
That's a classic Motown hit.
Very interesting. So great soundtrack. A lot of cool sounds on it. But like was busy thinking about the boys the opening where
The
it's
opening
like a
Charlie
sea
XCX. Yeah.
of khaki and just like guts and just a bunch of mediocre white maleness. And I was like, I'm home. These are my people. These are exactly what every woman dreams of. And on top of that, ladies, they're sexual predators. That's right. They've got a little bit of everything.
Kate,
Yes.
what do you think? Best use
It's-
of music.
Oh, and it's hard because the soundtrack is perfect. I kid you not, I was listening to the soundtrack and I went and I cross-referenced with my go-to all-women's college party playlist that we would play often. And there are 4 tracks that are played in both this screenplay or both in this soundtrack and in that whatever playlist. It is the soundtrack completely understands what it's going for. So with all that in mind, I will say, since no one's talked about it yet, of course, Paris showing up.
We felt we had to leave it for you.
and oh my God, thank you. No, it feels good to talk about. Paris Hilton and everything she represents to this film and to women at large is incredible. And there's always going to be a debate over, self-exploitation of sexuality under late capitalism in terms of feminist aesthetics. Yes, that's going to be a conversation. That being said, does Paris Hilton's pop banger Stars Are Blind rule? Yeah.
Yes.
It really does.
It really does.
And Bo's so cute when he performs it.
Yes, he is. And
Yeah.
I think that's part of the point. That point goes to Kate.
Thank
And that's-
you.
Sure.
That's part of the betrayal when he turns out to be such a
I
dick.
know.
Like watching the movie for the second time, and you feel still swept up in his charm, and you're
Yeah.
like, "No, stop! This is an awful guy." The movie's so effective at that.
That's the betrayal of every man's charm.
yeah.
That's why I try to just ooze grossness
Just why you
right
just
away.
don't charm.
At
It's
least
why
I
you
don't
just
let
don't
anybody
give a fuck.
down.
No, you have to be like the dad. You have to be like the dad, kind of disconnected and not
Yeah.
really part of the world anymore. You have to go west at least mentally.
That's the dream, man.
Wow,
Yeah,
no,
you
Greg,
just-
what you just said is a mouthful and more real than I think you realize. I think that's very true. I think that's how a lot of dads handle it.
yeah, right. You check out.
Check
like,
out.
You're about 70% there. You go stand on the lawn and sort of look at the street for a while.
The next award is Best Revenge. Kate, in the movie Promising Young Woman, what is the best revenge?
I think the best revenge is okay.
A life well lived.
It's a life well lived. The best revenge? Serve cold. I'm going to go with I wasn't expecting first seed here. Okay. I'm going to go with at least what was supposedly the most satisfying, which is that final revenge, number 5. And it's the most satisfying because in that it's not satisfying at all. And it is nice to see that these men will be, at least some of these men will be locked up for their murder. I mean, that goes back to Carey Mulligan as a Christ figure, right? Where like,
yeah,
there was no way that those boys were going to pay for Nina's death, her suicide, yet again, her choice, right? And so you had to have something that like the system would recognize as inherently there is you murdered a stripper violently and burned her body with your friend. And Carey Mulligan's character provided that. And so in that sense, it's like, yes, this is the most final retribution. You have given your entire life to this effort. And there are men who deservedly so will be locked away for life, even though they're only being locked away for half of the crime to begin with, in some senses. But of course, in the same ways, that's not a totally satisfying end because it requires the death of 2 women. So it's like, it doesn't feel like good. But in terms of the efficacy, I would say the final revenge.
Also, there's something about being like, oh, good, the criminal justice system is here. And it's like, isn't this just another institution that's going to just fuck everything up?
Yeah, that reminds you that the only person of color you see in their entirety is a tokenized Laverne Cox.
Greg, best revenge?
Best revenge, I would say, is the one against the dean, because I feel like it shows the dean that, like, the danger here is just your daughter being with boys and there's some alcohol around.
Yeah.
Like, if you can be so freaked out by that to where you're screaming and making a scene, it makes the double point of, like, fuck you, Dean, but then also, like, Jesus Christ, really? That's how bad it is? And, yeah, it is. That is how bad it is. And so that sort of, like, double message right there is a real gut punch.
Makes you so scared to have a daughter. Mike.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, boy, oh boy, huh?
What is it?
Yeah, I agree with Greg. I think it's Dean Tammy. Just the mind games of she didn't need to get her daughter anywhere, but just the fact that she did to just in case she would call in the middle of their conversation, and the way she lays out the information from, oh, my friend, I used to go here and my friend, and then just like Nina and just watching just like the little chip away at Dean's normal.
And then the Dean going like, is your friend okay? And she goes, no, she's not.
Yeah.
Like, oh fuck.
I think that was the best written revenge scene.
Yeah.
I think that was a really strong. I think on paper that is absolutely it's brutal, and I think that's part of why I didn't pick it was like using the potential of violence against your daughter. Like that's just a brutal thing, but it's so illustrative because of that, right? She just had to describe having your daughter alone.
Yeah, I think it's the scene that sort of ruins the movie. Or makes it more complicated.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna give Mike the point.
Kate.
No, wait. I'm gonna give Mike the point.
Greg.
And then we're gonna move on.
I'm very confused. What happened there?
Mike, we'll start with you. Best sloppy drunk outfit.
I don't understand. Greg and I had the same answer.
Mine was, I thought, a little bit better.
I don't know what to write down there, so I won't. That's fine. Bad hosting. The best sloppy drunk answer or costume is, I think the Madonna, where she's walking out with the Sam Richardson and runs into Bo Burnham.
Yeah, hell
just
yeah.
like that high pony and just like
the bangle
so perfectly
on the
80s.
Yeah.
The bangle. Yeah, it's just like the outfit pops, and also like watching that, like it's like glitzy and pay attention to me, and also like there's something very angular and sharp and huntress about that outfit.
Yes, very much.
Greg?
So.
Another thing I like about that outfit is I feel like you can feel yourself assigning value to her in that outfit in a way that's very like interesting. You're like you're like feeling these ways about the same character that you've seen, but she's
it's the
just
most
like
sexually provocative of all of the outfits we see explicitly.
So for me, it's definitely that look. Also, I just wanted to point out how she's got so many killer sober looks. It's a shame that we didn't get a chance to do an award about that.
Ugh, that's so true.
Kate, anything else about the best sloppy drunk outfit?
Yeah, I think that the first sloppy drunk outfit deserves an honorable mention because going back to like reappropriation and all of that stuff, a woman in a pencil skirt power suit is a very strong, especially when you see that opening sequence where the construction men are catcalling her and she's holding the bloody hot dog. Inside of a man's power suit, that is shoes off. It's such a powerful image in terms of like the blend of feminine sexuality and male power and how those things interact with each other. That being said, the thing that I think deserves the honor, the go-to award is her McLovin costume in which she's applying the blowjob lips. I think the whole scene constructed around it is incredibly complex thematically. So you have her watching which every 15-year-old girl has watched a perfect blowjob lip makeup tutorial, and it's a bummer, dude. and seeing her inside of that scene with all that makeup on, and you see all that makeup, and in its first flush, that is a performance for men to attract men. Then she smears her lipstick, and all of a sudden it's war paint. And then you see throughout the evening, when she arrives at McLovin's apartment, that war paint looks a lot like vulnerability, looks very exploitable. And it's all within her own control. It's all within the same like realm of like the power of makeup and what it means when it's done for others, when it's done for ourselves. And so I think that is a very subtle and very powerful sloppy drunk outfit.
And then McLovin's like, I don't even know what you wear.
Your freckles and your imperfections.
I love those imperfections. McLovin.
All right, let's give that to Kate. And then, Kate, up next is cringiest moment.
Oh, no.
Kate.
Oh, no, sorry. My computer was about to die. Cringiest moment. My cringiest moment that I have to give the movie, cringiest moment, I'm going to go with the first scene. Just because you don't quite know what you're watching yet. And so to be introduced to the thing that made the first scene upsetting, in which Adam Brody is the nice guy who gets her inside of her car. She's very cute, she's very charming. And then that switch to what, he asks her over for a beer. That scene is very, very hard to watch because you don't understand yet that the film is about this. She is going to be in this, this is going to be what it's the first time you're confronted with the reality without a revenge tilt to it at all. So you just see a drunk woman at a bar and a guy who seems to be nice, and then seeing that switch over and having to watch and know from the second he says, "Hey, my apartment's right around the corner," that he's a predator. That first cringe, I think, is the most powerful, because it's one before we know there's any reclamation to it.
Greg, cringiest moment.
There's a lot in this movie to choose from, but the movie within the movie, and I know this is an old one, so we have different standards for the movies, but a character's talking about things God doesn't like. He says things that are perfumed, things that are nice, things with curly hair is one of the things he says that God
And that
hates.
struck you.
It was just, I was part of the fun until that, and then I was just taken right out of it. I have curly hair. I do not believe God hates me. I am here. I'm proud.
And that's
to be
very
here.
brave of you, Greg.
Yeah. So,
And Mike, it's so weird that we often talk about how much we find it funny that you and I are loved by God, but God hates Greg. But go ahead, and what is your pick for cringiest moment?
My pick is the Alison Brie revenge. The movie lets you sit for a while not knowing if Cassie really did hire a dude to rape her. And I found that, I was like, I think I have to re-examine my relationship to this protagonist if she'll go this far. Because, their revenge too far is just, But, so in that moment, it's hard because it made me cringe, even though that's what the movie wanted you to go through. Yeah. But until that other shoe drops, I found it so hard to sit.
I truly have to give it to Mike. Mike. It made the movie complicated. Here's next. Director signature, Mike. Are you ready? Emerald Fennell's. Director signature.
This is always difficult with somebody's first film, right? So just going from this, I think it has to be the way she masterfully plays with that tone of jumping between thrilling and gut punching and funny. And so I'm gonna fuck you and your jerk off hands, Ryan. So I'm gonna narrow it down to one moment because I'm not gonna be lazy and just say all of that tone. I think what captures all of that is Max Greenfield's "Why's the fucking stripper dad?" Very Schmitty, but very like it's brutal, it's funny. It's like I'm going through all of the emotions in this one sentence right now.
Greg, Emerald Fennell's director signature.
Okay, I'm such a movie dum-dum that I'm not sure if this is gonna work, but here's what I think. She makes these shots that are so composed that it almost hurts the symmetry in them. Whether if it's a circle right behind Cassie's head or the wings.
The circle, or do you mean the halo? Blue halo,
and any of that imagery. But then she would always, in a shot right after that, break the shot. She very purposely, it felt like, broke all of her really well-composed shots. And I thought that was so interesting because it sets it up and then breaks it for you over and over and over again. So it was that sort of like, yeah, see how I have her framed perfectly? And then 1 second later, see how she's not? I really enjoyed that.
It was really hard to tell during this movie whether she was more Kevin Smith or Quentin Tarantino based on like, do you know what you're doing or do you totally not know what you're doing? But for the most part, it really did feel like that. Again, I want to watch her next movie. You know, like I think that she will have it down on her next movie.
She's not Zach Braff, Ryan.
She's not.
Yeah,
Zach
she doesn't.
Braff.
She's not a one and done.
She's not Zach Braff or a none and done.
A one and done, baby.
Kate, what is your director signature?
I think the scene that made me think the most about what she was doing is the kind of interstitial transition scene into the meet cute with Bo Burnham. It's a tracking shot up her spine. And, you know, she has on this cute little white shirt with pink roses on it, and she's got her blonde braid, and it has the blue bow tie, which we know I always appreciate a bow on a girl, because that way I know she's actually pretty, and we're not just lying. And and what we're seeing, when you see, for me as a female film critic, whenever you see a tracking shot in a woman's body, it's almost always the male gaze. It's almost always a sexualized view of her body. And what we're tracking here, a tracking shot of her body, is, this feminine imagery, you know, braid and bow and you know, blossom, right? Not to use alliteration, but comes out sometimes. But what we're watching is her tracking up a very strong and pronounced spine. And I think that is an incredibly interesting and subtle choice that then leads immediately into the Bo Burnham flirt scene. And so I think that is a person who's aware of what she's asking you to look at, why she's asking you to look at it, and how she's playing with that.
Yeah, she looks strong in the shot, and it's so interesting. You don't often see the camera play over a woman's body, and it's to make her look strong.
Yeah.
But by the time you're done, you're like, yeah, she like must do Pilates or something, because like she's obviously got a lot of muscle.
That girl's got a strong spine, man.
Yeah.
But not
what
like,
a backbone on that
heels,
one.
Hello, butt. You know, like it's not
No,
it's
and her shoe game is on point at different times in this movie when it's working for her. You know,
we deserve to see her body in terms of how splendiferously it's decorated throughout this entire film.
All right,
she works
Kate,
too hard.
2 more awards. Here's the second to last one. Here we go. Pound for pound performance. Kate, you're up first.
Oh, Chris Lowell, 1,000%. Al Monroe. There's a lot of incredible performances throughout this entire movie. I really do think that. But pound for pound, like we were talking about, how good he is at showing what it is to have your rage at someone holding you accountable take over enough for you to murder a woman. Though he looks like he has lost control. And not only that, beforehand he does such a good job at playing the like prep innocent who's like wholesomely, you know, I got a fiance, not trying to do anything. You're not going to hurt me, right? You know, and then how quickly that becomes violent and how pronouncedly and truly like it is upsetting to watch him do that. And then when Schmidt comes up to the bedroom and we have our funny stripper moment, as he is wont to do. Immediately all of his comedic chops come out. I think he's one of the funniest. I love him in Glow. I think he's near perfect in Glow. I think he's hilarious. And it's a stacked cast again. I think that he is so good at playing compelling tertiary male characters and female narratives, and for that reason alone, Chris Lowell deserves a little bit of an applause break.
Gregory, Kate picks Chris Lowell. Where are you going now?
Yeah, I always want to have a cool one, but for me, it's just Carey Mulligan. And let me tell you why. A lot of people play drunk. You gotta do it in Hollywood. You gotta play drunk, and there's a lot of different types of drunk, and she plays a lot of different types. But one thing that she does a really good job of doing is none of her drunk characters are at all attractive. These men are trying to pick up like this hot, sweaty, unfocused eyes, hair like flying in every direction. She can barely keep her eyes open. She can barely stand. And she does that. She brings that across so effectively. Like, it's like trying to have sex with someone who's got the flu or something. Like, it's so gross that even if it weren't a huge invasion, like she is able to pull off so many like layers of that. And that's just, one element of what she's doing over the course of this movie.
Mike, I don't want to give Greg the point right now. That'd be ridiculous. But I do think that Carey Mulligan is amazing in this movie. And I don't know how you can beat that. I'm going to give Greg the point right now, Mike.
Boom.
What do you think?
Really? Wow.
Pound for pound performance.
I was always going to say Carey Mulligan, but I'm going to give a shout out to our pal Bo. What he does of totally believably rom-com lead of
named Ryan
drinking the spit, of falling for her and being cute, being like very awkward but endearing. Even though I think it's bad sign. One is she gives him a wrong number, so he goes back to her place of business. I'd say just don't do that. But it all comes off very cute and rom-com-y in that part of the universe. To his shift of being like devastated that she found out that he was at that party and had to remember it, but into the, again, like Chris Lowe, the anger of she's shining that spotlight. He's like, you fucking failure. Yeah. It's like, I don't know, looking at your two lives, I don't think she's the fucking failure, but his like simmering rage, that like, because most rage doesn't turn murderous, it just turns insulting and outlashy like that. And
it just takes a woman rejecting you in one way or the other, and all of a sudden things become incredibly violent.
and then that awkward endearingness is dropped, and you're like, so was it never there? But I think all of it feels real for that.
But
character.
that's part of what that reveals when he says that is it reveals that he only probably had the balls to even hit on her because he thinks that she's less because he is a doctor and she's not. And so then that means their whole relationship, even in the nice moments, was predicated on him feeling superior to her. He didn't hit on her when they were both just students at Forest.
Because she intimidated him.
Yeah, right? She was too cool. She was too hot. But now he's a doctor and she's not. She works at some shitty coffee shop. And so now it's time to like go and try to hit on her.
Oh, Greg, I hadn't thought about it, but you're so right, and that make me so mad.
Did you think about how the whole thing is just a retelling of Young Goodman Brown? She goes to, quote, Forest, and that's where she finds out that everyone around her is actually terrible, and then she always hangs on to her, like, pink memento, and it's called Promising Young Woman, not Young Goodman Brown.
All right, I will give Greg
incredible.
1 point for all of that. Well, I'll give him 2 points for all of
Greg.
Yay!
But now, guys, it's time for recommendation time, where we are going to let everyone know 4 points. This is it. This is all the points that you're going to get. What do you think you should watch if you liked Promising Young Woman? Kate, we're starting with you.
Starting with me? This guy?
This guy right here.
This one right here? Okay. So I thought long and hard about this because there's a lot of different directions, a lot of different things that I liked about this movie that resonated with me. But if I were to recommend a movie based on this movie and what I grabbed from it, I highly recommend 2014's A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. Directed and written by Anna Lily Armanpour. In the Iranian ghost town of Bad City, a place that reeks of death and loneliness, the townspeople are unaware they're being stalked by a lonesome vampire. It's been described as the first Iranian vampire western. It's an incredible movie. It is one of those reappropriation tales. A woman in ghostly garb that carries a lot of gendered imagery with it attacks abusive men at night. And there is a lot about that movie that's striking and beautiful and worth watching. But the reason that's in my top, like, any movies is that there's one specific scene, which is when the vampire brings her main victim back to her lair, which looks a lot like a cool dorm room covered in band posters and a disco ball, and plays the White Lies track Death. And it's the most beautiful. Everything that is beautiful about movies is seen inside of that one, like, 2-minute scene. It's probably my favorite scene of any movie ever. So I highly recommend watching A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night.
I'll go next. I'm going to say The Skin I Live In, which is an Almodovar movie, which is just yet another movie about a dude saying, my desire is worth more than your desire, and then doing what he wants. And then we have to sit there as an audience and deal with the consequences. And it's really, really rough. And it's Antonio Banderas, so we're like, wow, he'll probably figure it out, right? It's Antonio. That does not happen. It's a really rough movie where you have to figure out, or like, you have to deal with the fact that, like, it's just a constant in your life of this type of person always will try to have, like, control over this type of person. Mike?
I think if you like the pulpiness that exists within Promising Young Woman, if you like the woman's revenge, go for Hard Candy, which is a dope two-hander between Elliot Page and Patrick Wilson, who is so forgettable of a face that I forgot it was Patrick Wilson.
I'm sorry, Pop Filter?
Pop Filter Vora?
Vora.
What does that stand for again?
Value over replacement actor.
Yes. Just the most neutral actor, but he's got skills, man. And this one, it's just the two of them,
Patrick
and
Wilson
she is
rules. He's a king of his genre. What are you even saying?
Yeah, but but you don't think that. But he's like very quiet there, and he's blandly handsome, and I think he uses it so well in this. So, Elliot plays a 14-year-old girl who has lured him. They've met on the internet, and because somebody has somebody killed her friend, and so she just slowly goes from mentally playing with him to physically torturing him. And it's just awesome. And watching Ellie at that young age have the kind of power to own the screen for the entire movie is bananas.
That's a good one, Mike. Greg, what do you got?
I'm going to cheat because we were supposed to say a movie, and this movie just reminded me of so many different books. So I'm going to cheat, and I'm going to pick the movie version of a book. But really, I'm talking about the book because I don't actually like the movie version.
The Thinking Man's book. Or The Thinking Man's movie is a book.
Yeah, it's like a movie that you read to yourself. So the movie is Lolita, and here's my reasoning. Lolita is obviously about a sexual predator who preys on a young girl, but I think what Nabokov was doing in addition to that was talking about like what it's like for men to court women that they loathe. He has so much loathing for this young girl that he's trucking all around the country. And I saw a lot of that in this movie where it's at the core of everything. It's like men are pursuing these women that they have no respect for and that they hate and that they think of as subhuman. And the gross intersection of their desire and their lack of empathy. And I think Nabokov is revealing how gross men are to women in general, not just men towards children, although that's obviously in there. And this movie picks that up by just having her never really appear attractive in any scene where someone is actively hitting on her, really. I mean, she always looks like a mess. And so that was really, more than anything else, I just kept coming back to them. Just the amount of loathing for women that you hear in every line of male dialogue. It was just... the only thing I can think of on par is the way that Humbert talks about Lolita.
Well,
Dolores.
in Hannah Gadsby's Nanette, that's a one-woman show, so I didn't include it, but that was a very close I was almost about to choose that like film in order for this genre, or whatever this game is. And but what she says in that set is misogyny is a mental illness because to desire what you hate is an incredibly tense state to be in. And I think that is true. I think there is a psychosis to the hatred that straight men have towards women that is very hard to digest and square, and that goes unaddressed because it's easier than to like acknowledge that there is in everyone a combined, and I think there's like this, I think everyone has this combined hatred and love of that which you desire. So yeah, I think that's a great choice, Greg.
All right, we're gonna go to trivia again. I don't know. Actually, I don't know what's gonna happen. Let's take a break. And that's Promising Young Woman. Kate, let's go to you. Do you... Mm-hmm. Is this going to win Best Picture of 2020, do you think?
I don't think so.
Why?
Well, I think that there are some things that are kind of like prohibitive about it being kind of a very niche genre in a very specific way, and also obviously anything involving that many pastels and that many comedic actors, people are not going to say is necessarily worth the same.
It's like an Easter pageant.
Pieces. It's quite literally, yeah. It looks like an Easter pageant.
Someone dies and comes back from the dead. I mean, it's very Easter.
Yeah, it's incredibly spring-like in that way. But it'll definitely be one of the movies that I remember the most from 2020.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
I think that Carey Mulligan might have a stranglehold on Best Actress. I don't think that we got to her enough tonight.
No,
but
probably not.
You could have talked about her for an entire 40 minutes.
What do you think as far as 2020 goes?
So this is the first of the season officially, but we've watched a handful of 2020 movies. I know what's coming up. I think this is gunning for it. I think Promising Young Woman is the movie to beat right now.
That's exactly how I'd put it. It's definitely the movie to beat. Because, we have seen like 4 of the movies. So
we've seen other movies, and it is, if what Kate said, like there's too many pastels, there's too many comedic actors, it's a niche. But we're the Academy of Movie of the Year, Best Movie of 2020. So
right, within this culture, I think it might be the Best Movie of the Year. It's been my favorite so far.
If we started another show right now, we could do a whole extra show, which I'm not going to, guys, so don't ask. But where we could talk about a whole host of different topics.
Yes.
And it's still about this one movie. And that's what gets you Movie of the Year. When you could have like a double episode and we're done. When we're done, we're like, oh, I can't believe we didn't talk about this. No. That's the kind of movie that gets us excited because all we want to do is talk. And I guess to a lesser extent, maybe listen to each other. Question.
Shut up.
Yeah, sorry.
What did you say? That's insane.
Hey, Greg, don't make it gay.
Only you can make that joke on the show.
I know.
And what? Because we're all involved.
Exactly. You're right.
Dressed up right
Yeah,
now?
dude, Mike got fancy.
Yeah,
He thinks he's gonna win.
I might win. I wanted to come in.
Listeners, Mike is now wearing a 3-piece tux and what look to be very expensive swimming fins.
Let's do this real quick then. I got last place with 11 points. Mike got third place with 27 points. There is no way that Mike won. Take the jacket off, bro.
It's hard when the host is biased against you.
Oh my goodness.
Why? Because you're a man,
again,
Mike? Ew,
why, yeah.
gross.
I'm sorry, boo-hoo.
I would say hello, and you'd just be like, Greg, Kate.
I don't remember that. I don't
remember any of that. I actually remember a lot of Brandons.
We were
I
kids.
remember Brandon's. So
here's what I did. What I did the entire podcast was reward people for saying interesting things. And Mike got last place.
When I would talk, you would make literal jerk-off motions, which is distracting.
distracting but instructive.
Yeah. Because they were broad strokes, man. I feel like I know more about Ryan now. Those are deep moves. Yeah.
Good to know. Logging away.
Based on performance, I would say that Mike did not watch the movie. Greg, you got 34 points.
I want to hang up.
Kate got 36. It was close.
Well done.
It was close.
Okay.
But Kate
be honest,
is the winner.
Is that just
this
because
episode.
I'm a girl? Is that because I'm a girl?
I did not think about that when I was giving points away. The only thing I thought about was, man, Mike is not saying anything interesting whatsoever.
It's clearly not based on just solely feminine energy, because I think I would have.
No, I think you would have won.
winner.
Yeah, I think for sure.
I'm going to
You're
posit it might be that you studied the shit out of these topics throughout life. And then
Yeah,
and
you're
came
right.
to
It
fucking
might be
play.
that I know a lot to say. I have a lot to say about these things. It's true.
I wasn't prepared. Normally we make some jokes. We say, oh, movie's fun. And you just
Yeah,
sat
I
there
know.
and gave us fucking audio essays on shit, Kate.
No, I know. And
Movie's
trust me,
fun.
you guys get to go home and like go to bed after this, and I will be journaling about how I feel I messed up tonight.
Oh, we just text each other about that.
Yeah,
You should get in that feed.
Once again, Mike giving his Andrew Dice Clay response for how he performed on the episode. Yeah, way to go, Mike. Yes, you're the Clay Man, or the Dice Man, or whatever it's
It's
called.
the Clay Man.
So I don't know. We have varying degrees of hope for where Promising Young Woman will finish in the 2020 bracket. I don't really know.
You were reservedly not blown away, Ryan.
Yeah, you didn't.
Not
ever actually
aggressively. I
expand
hated
on
this
what
movie,
that meant.
but just kind of like, yeah, it didn't quite do it for me. Maybe next time.
Yeah.
I would say that I loved all of its parts. It was definitely less than its parts.
Yeah,
but
I'd agree with that.
I couldn't believe how great each part was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know? And I know it's hack to say, but I cannot wait for Emerald Fennell's next movie.
Is it
When
hack
she
if you say for
knows-
the fourth time on a show? Or does that cancel it out?
No, I think at that point it's vintage.
Oh, okay.
Do you guys remember when Sam Richardson said, surge pricing, 1.2? You can walk, right? I felt so uncomfortable how hard I laughed at that because I was like, no, he's being very bad. 1.2. That's what he balked at.
So funny.
Get the Uber.
1.2.
You can walk to my parents' place, right? He was
We
so
have to be
funny.
respectful.
Sam Richardson's so funny.
You have to be Oof.
Yeah, I wonder how much of that he improvised.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do the ads at the end of the show because I don't want to get screamed at. But Kate, do you have a show that you want to throw out there?
Yes, I'd love to throw it out there. Is it too early? Is it a premature throw? Certainly.
No, he literally said, talk about it.
Yeah, you're right. Well, the last time I talked about a podcast, it no longer exists. So
Hey, podcasts can be ephemeral like that.
This isn't
true,
coming
it's
out for
true.
a few weeks.
ephemeral fennel or fennel, excuse me. Okay, so the podcast I'm currently working on, that's going pretty well so far, if I may say. It's called Movies I'd Like to Fix, shorthanded MILF, hosted by myself and my dear friend Tompkins. We are going niche genre by niche genre, picking apart our favorite movies, figuring out what it is we like about them, figuring out what it is we don't, and then using that knowledge to construct what we consider the perfect screenplay at the end of that season. Our first season is Revisionist Westerns. Our first episode will be Dances with Wolves. I think it's going to be very, very funny. Tompkins and I have edited our trailer ad nauseum, and we laugh when we listen. So I'd imagine
That
you
says
all
anything
will
about the
too.
show. We find ourselves very amusing.
So you can find us as of this moment. All we have to share with you is our Twitter, prematurely made by my dear friend Tompkins, called @movies_fix. And eventually you will be able to find us where all podcasts are found. Movies I'd Like to Fix, starring Kate Dellis and Daniel Tompkins. Thank you for your
And you'll tell Tompkins that I gave you that moment.
I will never, ever let him know that you had a shred of kindness in your body for him.
Next week, First Cow.
Oh, I love
shit.
First Cow. Oh my God. Are you guys talking about First Cow?
Next week is First Cow.
Oh my God. We're talking about First Cow in our show.
Whoa, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Kate, you know what's confusing about First Cow?
What? She ain't the first.
Ryan's never seen
Zero cow?
Zero
Yep,
Cow.
Zero cow 30?
Okay, so I think that I did a really good job of saying she ain't the first.
Yeah,
Yeah.
on that one.
That was better, yeah.
I think I kind of.
Movie of the year. When we come back, we will continue our journey in figuring out what is the single greatest movie of 2020. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.